back into another canyon back there, which I think is another BNSF line. As we're coming up on the railroad crossing from the Washington and Oregon, vice versa. That has a lift bridge on it. I've taken a picture of it. I've caught a silver red war bonnet train coming across. See, right now there's there's tracks over on the right and there's tracks over on the left right now. We got tracks that are splitting each other right now on the interstate. The tracks on the left are the high line, and the tracks on the right are the low line. And there's a park here. I think this is that Native American Indian village that I was talking about. I think this is where this is at. But the lift bridge is up right at the moment. You can just barely see that on the right side. It's going to be going out of frame here. But there's a Y. There's a Y on the Washington side. Over here, it only comes east. But on the Washington side, you can come from the east or west and get on the bridge. So there's a whole bunch of little short span bridges. Then you have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 arched steel bridges, and then you got the lift bridge, and then you got some more of those short, flat girder deck bridges, which are what? 1, 2, 3 there. It's probably what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 or 12 for each of the Ys. I always thought that'd be a cool thing to model. Now it looks like the transfer line from the high to low doesn't get used much. There's weeds growing up, but it's right here down below us. Like I said, if you come from the east or west, the outside line is the high line. You can't see that. The line that was closest to the mountains. Now we're actually outside on this little causeway. So like I said, if you come from the east or the west on the Washington side, you can come across to the Oregon side, but you can only go east. Unless you back the train up. After you get across, you back the train up through the siding and out onto the main line, and then head east. I suppose you could do a runaround and then head west as well, but why? I know there's probably more crossovers once you get closer to Portland, but I think it's just only used to go up that valley, which I think is a BNSF line too. There again, cool new area to model. See, I'm down to 43 minutes on my phone. It's not a lot of space. If I had an external, if I could upload that to the cloud, I think I'd be able to use it all day long. But I haven't uploaded stuff off the old phone for a couple of days now, which I should have done while I was sitting yesterday. But anyway, back to the modeling aspect. You got the BNSF over on the Washington side. You got the river. Oh, there is a highway over there, Highway 14. Then you got the river. Then you got the interstate over here. And actually, the railroad tracks are splitting the east and westbound interstates right now because it's in the center right here, which is up a little bit higher. Then you go up a little bit higher, and you got the eastbound lanes of the Interstate 84. And then you got the mountains, or the bluffs. And there's bluffs on both sides. So you could either be, UP, which of course BNSF doesn't come across back there at the lift bridge. So you can have both at one point, or just model the UP and the Oregon side, or just model the BNSF on the Washington side. Or yet, hey, why not? Let's make a corridor. Ooh, that's an idea. I could do that in the train room. The middle aisle, which would be a loop, would just be UP running the Columbia River Gorge, and then along the walls could be the Washington side running the BNSF. Huh. Could do that. The aisle would be the river. At certain points, I can maybe do a lock and dam. I always wanted to do a lock and dam in an HO scale. It'd be better if it was in scale, but I have most of my equipment is in HO scale. I only started recently acquiring in scale. The in scale was just going to be unit trains running on an upper level and just having scenery. I have a little yard that has 2 or 3 trains staged already, and I pull them out, or I just run them all at once, chasing each other, because it'd be basically just a big giant loop like Sparky did, but just on one level. Have the back line elevated a little bit higher than the front line, but they still be just chasing each other on one continuous loop, spread out over 3 walls of a basement. Actually, almost 4 walls of a basement, just not in front of the closet, which is majority of the length of the room. So I can't touch the cedar closet, which would be a problem right now. But the doors, all swing out. So I got either, if I have bench work in front, it's got to be portable on wheels, so I can roll the stuff out, so I can get to the stuff in the closet. Or I don't know. That is an option. I did not think about doing that. That would be neat, wouldn't it? Side over into the far corner, actually have a return loop go back on itself, be a folded dog bone, back around, and then get over to the other side and do the same thing, loop around, and then back onto itself, and then right down through the center, just have the UP route. Have the UP running on the loop track in the center on a peninsula. Or just self-contained loop on the inside of the room. That would be an option. I wouldn't get my truck stop. Not as big as I'd like to have it, but I could have a smaller truck stop. It would just be a row of trucks along the back of the wall, which would be, of course, 104 there, which is big. That'd be the only place I could have a truck stop. Which, like I said, well, actually they have 3 truck stops there now. They're small, but you still get about 50 trucks at the pilot. TA, I'm assuming probably less than that, unless they dived into the hill a little bit more. And the other one, the easy trip, is probably even just 10 trucks or so. So if I did that, that'd probably be the easternmost point. Although I'd like to go further than that and catch the elevator and some of those lift bridge. I guess I could run to Portland on the other side, have a divided backdrop, and have Portland on one side. I don't know, on the other side, as far as I need to go, which would be, if I'd done that down at the one end, Portland was on one side, you come around. Oh, man, see, everybody slows down for the dolls, the dowels. The walls would be the Washington BNSF line. Maybe I just do it on Portland, that's the thing. Portland on 84 starts about in the 30s someplace. It's not even on the coast. So from 30s to 104, which is Biggs, that's 70 miles. Maybe I could do 70 miles. Do 70 miles in a loop track. That'd be a looped about 27 feet. 27 feet on either side of the loop. 27. No, minus that. I'm not thinking for if I had even just a small 12 inches for the Washington side. Probably more than that. I'd like to do the bluffs at a reasonable rate, reasonable scenery. Oh, there's a wood manufacturing plant here, timber plant. Got a lot of 4x4s and 4x6s and 4x8s, probably 6x6s and 6x8s. However big you want to go, probably. They probably make wood ties for the railroad line. I don't know, but that's here in the Dowels. Let's see what else. So that would be actually the loop track, the centered loop. Even if I went with 18 inches, yeah, I could do 18 inches. Wouldn't have my container ship port, but I could do a barge port that hauls containers. I could put containers on a barge and send them upriver or downriver. That'd be on the Washington side. And what I noticed, UP runs a lot of intermodal on the Oregon side, and Washington runs a lot of grain cars on the Washington side. So BNSF grain trains and UP intermodal and 2-bay covered hoppers, and then there's a lot of mixed freight on the UP side too. So that is an option. We doubled the work, but I think it'd pay off. If I could do the bridge down there with the Y and the lift bridge, you know, coming across at one point, everybody would know what that would be. And there's elevators on both sides that fill barges or loads barges. See, no one slowed down. Nobody ever slows down. I slowed down, but they did. Spooky. See, over here right now, there's probably a fish hatchery right here or something. There's grain elevator bins, grain silos. There's the tracks. We just crossed the tracks there, so the tracks are back out on more towards the coastline or the shoreline. There's a Taco Bell up here. I've never have figured out how to get to it yet. Back here, there's no place to park a truck on the street, but up ahead you can park a truck on the street. But I don't think I'd want to walk back. So from this point here all the way north for about a mile, you can park a truck on the shoulder off the highway. There's one place right up here that I used to pull in and park and go in and grab some stuff, but I haven't done that for quite some time. It's coming up here on the left. Probably won't even see it. Motel 6, there's a Ford dealership, there's a Chevy dealership, so there's some trucks parked right there. KFC's, oh, that was a marijuana place. Yeah. Marijuana, a cannabis store popped up there at the Loves at Ontario. I forgot to record it. Thought, yeah, that's a good place to have that. I wonder how many truck drivers walked over there and bought cannabis. Auto sales, Spookies, adult shop, and the Home Depot. Yep, the adult shop. Oh, and Aaron's. Hey, there's an Aaron's popped up in there. The adult shop has truck parking. And they used to be open. What? Oh, they sell pipes. Huh. That one I think actually has glory holes and booths in the back, but I don't know that for Truthfully, I don't know that for sure. I just heard. My other co-worker that can't drive anymore, he said that they got booths in the back, but I don't know about glory holes, but I'm assuming they probably do. Wow. I went through Bug Central here sometime or another between the last half hour. So there was another lock and dam here at the Dalles. Just said, man, I can get a whole bunch of lock and dams in. Just come out into the aisle a little bit and have the lock and or the lock at least. Let's speed back up. Let this guy go around me so he doesn't think I'm trying to race him. So I think the speed limit did jump back up to the correct speed limit. I just wasn't watching. Right down there is railroad tracks on the right. That's the main line. They're the only line, actually. Kind of taking my time. I actually started out sooner than I needed to, but then found out, hey, they are open. That's 7 o'clock. Turn the moonshot on to go back up bright. Can't do it on the bright side. I don't understand. Well, actually, I guess I can. I don't know. Maybe I'll just do that like I was talking about. So yeah, we get back to that. Loop track. Loop track in the center of the aisle. I'd have to have, like I said, I'd want at least, and you know, where the start of the Washington side is where that, I'd probably go from Boardman as far as I could, maybe not all the way to Portland. Because Portland would then have some ship traffic, big ship traffic, even that far into Portland. Even though Portland is, like I said, it's going by the river. It's probably 70 or 80 miles by river from the mouth of the river to the ocean down to Portland that these ships travel before they get to Portland, and they're big ships too. So if I could squeeze 100 miles, well, it'd be almost 150 miles. If I went from Portland to Boardman, so Portland would be on one side of the loop and Boardman on the other side, and then the other 150 miles are the rest of the loop for the Oregon side. And then it would be Vancouver to, well, see, that would be different because the Washington side would be along the walls. You wouldn't see the return track, but in sections where the passing siding would be at, would be the two tracks. And come around and loop back around again. And I'd do sections of the interstate and then the highway on the other side, which then would get my truck traffic. Like I said, I could do a truck stop. I could do the big truck stop, 3 of them, so there'd be trucks parked there that you can see. If I did the Northwest, then I could have 4-axle trailers and 4-axle tractors. They run a lot of that up here because the weight limit is a lot more. Like 94,000, I think. I'm thinking. Bugs off the window again. You'd think somebody would have came up with a scrubber that would scrub the damn bugs off the windows. Or a better bug spray that would could be put in the damn tank and would just, yeah, GPS has got 60 mile an hour right now, and the speed limit's been changed, and they haven't updated their record yet. Send a note to Truck Rider 2 that, hey, the Oregon speed limit for trucks has been raised to 65. It still shows 60 on the app. Oh, we'll get to that right away. I actually had, when I was in Sparks unloading, the route had told me to get either to or out of Western Hydro, which is on a cul-de-sac, had me going through across the railroad tracks where there's no frickin' road to an alley and then to a road. And I took a picture of it and sent it to them and says, hey, there's no road here, and it's trying to take me across railroad tracks where there's no road, no crossing. And I think within a half an hour or an hour or maybe the next day, they came back and says, thank you, they thanked me for sending the note. And then, like I said, like the next day, they said, we took care of that. Thank you for letting us know about it. And I went back and called it back up, punched it back in, and sure enough, it has me going down the road to the cul-de-sac, but just stopping at the cul-de-sac, which is fine and dandy. There's a whole bunch of warehouses, and they're at the end of cul-de-sacs, and then the buildings keep going. So it really can't, unless the Google Map router recorder or whatever you want to call them actually drives down past the cul-de-sac to show that there are businesses down there, then yeah, the route would only stop at the cul-de-sac. But at least it went around on the road to the cul-de-sac instead of trying to go cross country across railroad tracks where there was no road. Anyway. Back to the loop track for the UP side, if it was in the center. If I had 20 inches on the outside to do a fairly reasonable scenery of Washington shoreline or bank line, highway and railroad tracks, and then bluffs and tunnels. So 20 inches. The room is 30 feet. Okay, times 12 inches. 360 inches. Subtract the 20 inches off of one end. 20 inches off the other end. Okay. 30 inch for aisle, so that's 60. One end on the other end, that's 60. That's 260 inches for the center. Let's divide that by 12. It gets me 21 feet of loop track in the center. 21 feet, that's fairly good. And the thing is that if I build this at a reasonable height, say if I'm sitting on a chair, the layout is actually kind of in my chest area, and you only sit in a chair to wheel yourself around both layouts, okay? Around the loop in the center of the room, and around, that takes you also around the layout walls, around the walls, around the room for the layout that's attached to the walls. And of course, place lights down the center of, either place lights down the center of the aisle and it separates between the two layouts, or you run two sets of lights, which the way I'm going to do it now is going to be a little bit cheaper than the old fluorescent ones, and I'll be able to hang the lights wherever I want and even hook them up in series and hopefully not tax the breaker. And actually have two sets of lights for each layout. I can't see. Hang on. At 25, down to 25 minutes. There's a coal train on the Washington side right now. I wouldn't be able to do these in and outs like this. I wouldn't be able to show it true representation in HO scale. That's why it should be done in scale. But who knows? Oh, the only other thing that I'd have, well, I wouldn't have a layout. There would be nothing going in front of the closets for the BNSF side. So at that point, and at that point, it's 116 inches wide, which is yeah, it's less than 9 feet. Yeah, it's less than 9 feet. So at that point, if I had 20 inches for the BNSF and then 60 for the aisle, that leaves me with a 36-inch wide table in the center. Of course, you split that up into two, then that's 18 inches on either side, which is doable. That is very much doable. And at the moment, that's all I got is unit trains. I have very little mixed traffic, and for the mixed traffic cars that I do have, would be sufficient for both BNSF and UP. I'd have to probably buy some center beams and some wood chip cars. I don't have a lot of. I don't even think I have. I think I might have one center beam car. Definitely no wood chip cars, but that's what they rent up here, because there's a lot of logging mills. Center beams for lumber loads. Tracks right now are right along the bluff here to the left. So look, I mean, the railroad tracks there, which is a single line. You got a 4-lane interstate. You got a little bit of ditch line for water, and then it falls off into the river. So if I can't do this in HO scale, then there's got to be a problem. Even if I just do half of the bluffs going up the wall, and right now they're all covered in pine trees. So if I had 3 inches and then just go straight up with it, almost straight up, or go up about a 60-degree angle, it should work. Except for right here, it pops out a little bit, which I wouldn't do. Maybe a little bit. Who's to say I need to have 30-inch aisles too? Like I was saying, if you get to, look, 4-axle tractor, and we got a 4-axle trailer here, and it's still, hell, that's probably only 40, I don't know, it might be a 48. You ain't got much space between the axle and the tractor. So see, I like multi-axle trucks. I love it when I come up here because they have them. Plus, there's a lot of Super Bs up here too. Forgot my courtesy lights don't. I mean, yeah, they blink, but I meant to hit the headlights on and off. Yeah. See, right over here, right now on the Washington side, there's a lumber mill, and I know they load train cars, and I know they load trucks. So. See there, that's on the Washington side, which of course is BNSF. But like I said, if you can't model an HO scale, a bank, 4-lane interstate, basically a 5, 6, 7 lanes, because the shoulder is big enough for a breakdown. If the K-rail barrier wasn't there, that'd possibly be 8 feet there, and then 8 feet on the other side for the shoulder. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? 4, 5, 6, 7. So you figure up what 14-foot, 12-foot highway times 7. Well, 12 foot for the travel lanes and 8 feet for the shoulder and the interior, and then you have Hell, I mean, there's probably less than 20 feet between the highway, between the shoulder and the railroad tracks, and probably less than 20. There might be 20 feet here, off of the bank, off the guardrail to the water line. You know, there's little snippets here where they crop out into the river a little bit more, or into the aisle, because like right now, see, there's some bluffs over here. There's a little park here. You know, and right now the track's a little bit further away, but if you can't model that in 20 feet or 20 inches, then there's got to be there's something wrong. Here comes another lock and dam up here, Hood River lock and dam. Actually, there's a bridge, but I know there's a lock and dam coming up here, and the lift bridge is up. Well, actually, it's down. Excuse me, it's down for car traffic, but it does go up for a barge, which wouldn't need to, because barges I don't think are that tall. I don't think you can even see it, can you? No, I zoomed out too far. I zoomed in too far. So, yeah. Even though the lift bridge for the bridge is down for traffic, I don't think it even needs to go up for barges to come through, because it's still, they took the girder span out underneath the lift bridge, but it is a lift bridge. I don't see any barges, even the containers on top of a deck of a barge, be that tall to where they'd have to raise that lift bridge up. So there's another lift bridge there. Now down there where the other one was, it was definitely low enough to the water that you'd have to raise the lift bridge up to let barges through. And I know they do it. Well, it was up anyway, but I know trains come across that bridge, or they used to, because I got a picture of a train coming across the damn bridge. Hood River. That's very much doable. That would get me double the layout space. Surely I could create something. And it being only, well, like I said, the UP side would only be 15 inches for both sides, or 18 inches. Well, minus the so yeah, I'd probably do 15 inches. Instead of the 18, that would give me 15, which is 3, and the other side is 3. I could build a center wall, since the ceiling is down, and I can tie in with the 2x4 to the floor joist. Then I could have a wall built, and have the have the loop actually be built off of a wall. Split a room that's 9 feet wide down into 2 rooms, kind of like 2 rooms, but 15 inches, 16 inches, 16, 32, that's 4, and that would be about the width of the wall, 2x4 wall. Now I could do a 2x2 wall, tie the 2x2s in, and then have masonite up for seating for backdrops on both sides. And if I did it to the ceiling, see there again. Well, that would all, the height of the layout, both of them, would depend if I'd want to put an N-scale layout around the walls above at eye level. The eye level is like 64, I think, for me. And if I put the grain elevator that I got, I wouldn't have to do the port one. The port one's actually taller than the other one, but I can do the one that I bought. But that elevator is still 18 inches. I'd need at least 2 feet of space between the upper and lower level. The upper level being the N-scale layout. The lower level being the HO layout. And I'd have to have both of them at the same height if I wanted to do a lock and dam. Well, I mean, I wouldn't do the whole dam portion. I'd come out a little bit on the UP side into the aisle, which would just be, it'd be part of the layout. And then a little bit, I'd actually have the lock lock side for the ships and for the barges on around the wall, so you can actually see what a lock would be like. I don't know if it'd be operational. That'd be all right if I could. Not actually using real water, but just, maybe glass beads or something, or plastic beads that look like water. So that you can pull the barges and the tugboat in on one side, and if it's going down, then the beads would come out, dropping the barge and tugboat down, and then the doors would open up in the middle, and then the barge and tugs would push out into the lower side. Yet the train layout would all, the level of the layout would all stay the same, except for the river. The river would drop down. That would be tricky, because then, depending on how many lock and dams you put in, would determine. Because eventually, the tracks eventually do go down. So you'd actually, if I started at Portland, which would be the lowest point of the layout, and then work your way up to the other side for the aisle, but the track would all stay pretty well the same, because once you got to the other end of the loop, you'd have to be back down at the Portland side to go around, unless you did a loop underneath. Can't do a loop at 36 inches, but I could max it out to 48 or 50 inches. I could do that. I can really do that. Definitely put the Portland down on the south end, because I have more room, because I lose the closets on one side at that point. So then the room becomes about 10 foot or 11, 12, almost 12 foot, because I gained 2 feet. So that'd be the only place I could have a helix in HO scale at 50 inches wide, and increasing from 36 to 50 minus 36, that's only adding 7 inches on either side of the layout. Actually 14 inches all on one side, because I couldn't add anything on the other side. So you leave the one side at 15 inches, and then you increase on the other side to make the loop, so as the trains, that'd be backwards. I wasn't thinking Portland would be the lowest point. Well, where the tracks would be, that would have to be the lowest point, but Portland would actually be sitting up higher to accommodate the helix, the one-turn helix underneath Portland, to get the trains back down to the lowest point. Because if that's on the south, if that's on the south side of the layout, or actually the west side of the layout, where the wide point is at, as you go north, which the direction the layout would be going, as you go north, which would actually be east, and then you loop around the end, and then you continue, and then you could be going back south, which would still be going east, and the locks go upriver. Well, I mean, if you're going east, you're going upriver, which should increase the height of the water level to whatever point you get to. At that point, then the trains would have to circle back underneath Portland for a turn, one single turn, to drop down the 4 inches that you gain going the length. Maybe a two-turn helix. Maybe a two-turn helix. Let's see, you'd have, what'd I say, 21 feet. So knock that down to about 18 or 19 feet. Knock that 18 feet down. What percentage of grade at 18 feet? Well, 18, 19, 20, 21. 18 is 36 plus 3, 39 feet. At 39 feet, what percentage of grade could I handle? Well, no, because the trains could be going. No, they would not. They would never be going the other direction. Trains would only be coming out of Portland, going east to wherever I model back to the other side, and at that point, right in the center of the, maybe not in the center, maybe the center of the wall. At that point, they would start to go down. That'd be the thing, the outside line, depending on where I start. If I could get away with a wider turn and a light on the pre-pass. Drive-wise, actually drive-wise popped up. This is the drive-wise side up here. Cool. Anyway, so the outside loop would be bigger, so you can see the train. The inside loop would be underneath Portland. It's closed. I can keep going. I actually slowed down for it, but I didn't need to. So there'd be a smaller loop underneath Portland, so the trains would be hidden until you get to the point where they would pop out from wherever and then start seeing them, which would then be on a bigger loop. And the train yard itself, I'm not sure where it's at. I have to look. I know it's nowhere near the river. And the BNSF side, which of course where Portland is at, on the other side would be Vancouver. That would just be the significant. And you'd have to have a loop there, and same thing there. The loop, which would go, actually I wouldn't need to do a helix. Well, maybe I would. I'm just saying, because if you do a lock and dam, if I did a lock and dam, Hood River and the Dalles and maybe one other one, the water level would be different, I could do that. That would be an optical illusion. You leave the layout, you leave the train line all on. Oh, I need to go here in a little bit. I'm running out of space. Anyway, the train line would be on the same level, and the river would go up and down according to the level. If that makes any sense. All right, I need to go. Later.